She spent 40 years working for the federal government. She trusted institutions. She respected authority. She believed that when a government official told her something was wrong, something was wrong. So when the email arrived, telling her that her social security number had been suspended, that it had been linked to criminal activity, to drug trafficking, to money laundering, she was terrified. She called the number in the email immediately. The man who answered said he was from the Social Security Administration. He transferred her to someone who said he was an FBI agent. That agent told her that her money was not safe in her bank account, that criminals already knew about her, that the only way to protect everything she had saved was to move it, immediately, secretly, and without telling anyone. They knew the color of her car. They told her they were watching her house. She stopped eating. She stopped sleeping. She was afraid to go outside, and she wired her entire life savings to a bank account in Hong Kong. Her name is Lisa. She is 82 years old. She spent 4 decades serving the United States government, and the people who took everything from her were sitting in a call center in India, running a script they had used on hundreds of other Americans exactly like her. This is the story of the 3 Indian call centers that stole $48 million from 660 Americans and the FBI investigation that finally brought them down. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how the operation worked, why it was so devastatingly effective, and what every person you love needs to know to stay safe. Lisa is not the only face of this story. At a press conference in Gaithersburg, Maryland on February 3, 2026, 2 victims stood before cameras and reporters and described what had been done to them. They did not have to be there. They chose to be, because they understood that their stories, shared publicly, were the most powerful warning they could give to the people who might be next. Lisa is 82 years old. She lives in Rockville, Maryland. She retired in 2022 after 4 decades working for the federal government. She is not naive. She is not uninformed. She is a woman who spent her entire professional life operating within the system she was later manipulated into trusting. When the scammers called, they used her knowledge of government against her. They used official-sounding language. They referenced real agencies. They spoke with authority. And when she hesitated, they told her they were watching her house. They described the color of her car. They made her feel that she was already under surveillance by the criminals who had used her social security number, and that the only safe course of action was to do exactly what they said. She transferred her life savings to Hong Kong. She told no one. When her son finally realized what was happening and helped her report it to law enforcement, the money was long gone. "I started even thinking about suicide," she said. "All that. Just terrible." She lost weight, she could not sleep, she was afraid to leave her home. The financial loss was devastating, but the psychological violence of what was done to her, the fear, the isolation, the manufactured terror, was a wound that stayed long after the money was gone. "I am here today trying to help get the word out about those scams," she said at the press conference, fighting back tears, "so other people do not get cheated out of their money the way I did." Sahadev is 69 years old. He lives in Germantown, Maryland. He works in the Montgomery County Public Schools Transportation Department. He is the person who helps children get to school safely every day. He received the same email. He was shown what appeared to be an official government badge as proof. He was told his social security number had been used by criminals for drug trafficking and money laundering. He was instructed to transfer money to a bank account in California. He was told to tell his bank he was sending money to a friend with health issues so that no one would raise questions about the transaction. "I worked hard my whole life to save this money," he said, "and they took it all from me." I sobbed. Together, Lisa and Sahadev are 2 of the approximately 660 Americans who have reported losses connected to 3 call centers in India that ran this operation since 2022. The total reported losses across the United States, $48,778,230. And FBI Special Agent in Charge Jimmy Paul said the real figure is almost certainly higher. Many victims, he said, have likely not yet informed law enforcement.
Now let us get into exactly how this operation ran, because understanding the mechanics is what protects you. This was not a crude, obvious scam. This was a sophisticated, multi-layered criminal operation with dedicated teams, rehearsed scripts, and a carefully engineered psychological architecture designed to defeat the judgment of intelligent, careful adults. Step 1. The first contact. The operation reached victims through multiple channels simultaneously: email, text messages, phone calls, and computer pop-up warnings, the kind that freeze your screen and display an urgent message telling you that your computer has been compromised and you must call a number immediately. All of these entry points were designed to create one thing: alarm. Because an alarmed person does not think clearly, and a person who is not thinking clearly is far easier to control. Step 2. The tech support door opener. In many cases, the first person the victim spoke to was not a government official. They were a fake tech support worker, claiming to be from Microsoft, from Apple, from a well-known company the victim trusted. They told the victim their computer had been hacked. They offered to help fix it. To do that, they needed the victim to download software that would give them remote access to the device. That software was real, and once it was installed, the scammers could see everything on the victim's computer: bank account numbers, passwords, personal documents, financial records, everything they needed to make the next phase more convincing. Step 3. The government escalation. Once the scammer had established initial contact and trust, the victim was transferred or told to call someone claiming to be from the Social Security Administration, or the FBI, or the Drug Enforcement Administration. This transfer is critical. It creates the impression of an official process unfolding. You are not talking to one person, you are moving through a system, and systems feel legitimate in a way that individuals do not. Step 4. The manufactured crisis. The government impersonator delivered the news: your Social Security number has been suspended. It has been linked to criminal activity, drug trafficking, money laundering, child exploitation. It is always, as FBI agent Jeremy Capello described it, something that sounds horrific. Something that makes the victim feel implicated in something monstrous through no fault of their own. Something that produces immediate, overwhelming fear. Step 5. The solution. Now comes the pivot from crisis to instruction. The solution is always urgent, always specific, always designed to prevent the victim from pausing to verify what they are being told. Your money is not safe in your bank. The criminals already know about your accounts. The only way to protect your savings is to move them, now, to a specific account in a specific way. Bank transfer, cryptocurrency exchange, or in some cases, physical gold bars, which couriers would arrive at the victim's home to collect in person. Step 6. The silence instruction. This is the most psychologically devastating part of the entire operation. The victim is told explicitly, do not tell anyone, not your family, not your friends, not your bank. The investigation is ongoing. If you tell anyone, you could compromise it. If the real criminals find out you are cooperating, you and your family could be in danger. This instruction does two things simultaneously. It removes the victim's access to outside perspective, the one resource that could break the operation's hold, and it creates a sense of dangerous complicity, making the victim feel that silence is their duty and speaking out is a threat to themselves and the people they love. Step 8. The voice management. FBI investigators uncovered something remarkable about how these call centers managed their American targets. The first contact, often the tech support opener or the Social Security caller, frequently had a noticeable Indian accent. But as the victim moved up the chain to the fake FBI agent or DEA officer, the voices became progressively more American-sounding.
Sometimes this was simply staff selection, but sometimes the scammers were using AI voice software to Americanize their speech in real time, removing the accent that might trigger suspicion at the most critical moment of the operation. Step 8. The collection. Victims were directed to move their money through multiple methods: wire transfers to bank accounts, some in California, some in Hong Kong and other jurisdictions, cryptocurrency purchases sent to specific wallet addresses, and in some of the most brazen cases, physical gold bars purchased by the victim and handed directly to a courier who arrived at their home claiming to be a government agent collecting assets for safekeeping. Montgomery County State's Attorney John McCarthy said his office had secured 10 indictments against individuals who were used as couriers or mules, many of them picking up gold bars from victims who genuinely believed they were helping a federal investigation. The 3 call centers dismantled by India's Central Bureau of Investigation in December 2025 were not amateur operations. They were businesses. Organized, staffed, and managed like businesses, with one product: the systematic financial destruction of elderly Americans who had spent their lives building savings that these operations existed to extract. Workers at the centers spent their days searching for American targets. They worked through email lists, purchased databases of personal information, and responded to people who had clicked on pop-up warnings or called numbers from phishing messages. They had scripts for every stage of the conversation: scripts for the tech support opener, scripts for the Social Security crisis, scripts for the FBI escalation, scripts for when a victim hesitated, pushed back, or seemed close to ending the call. The operation understood something fundamental about their targets: that the people most likely to have significant savings were also the people most likely to have deep respect for government authority. Lisa had spent 40 years inside the federal government. Sahadev served his community throughout his career. Their entire professional identities were built around trust in institutions, and the operation used that trust as the primary weapon against them. The accents were managed deliberately. The progression from Indian-accented tech support to American-sounding FBI agent was not accidental. It was a designed feature of the psychological architecture. Trust was built incrementally, and each transfer to a more convincing voice deepened the legitimacy of the operation in the victim's mind. When law enforcement arrived at the call centers in December 2025, they found laptops, cell phones, devices, and cash. 6 Indian nationals who led the criminal syndicates were arrested, but investigators were clear: the victims would almost certainly never see their money again. In Maryland alone, only $15,000 out of $6.2 million lost by county victims had been recovered at the time of the February announcement. $15,000 out of $6,257,869. That's a recovery rate of less than 1/4%.
One of the most extraordinary elements of this case, and the one that most clearly illustrates how far these operations will go, is the gold bar courier system. Some victims were not asked to wire money, they were asked to purchase gold. Go to a gold dealer, buy gold bars with your savings. This is for your protection. It is being placed in government custody while the investigation proceeds. A representative will come to collect it. And someone did come. A courier, often recruited locally through money mule networks, sometimes with ties back to the Indian call centers, would arrive at the victim's home and take physical possession of gold bars worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The victim handed over their savings in the most literal possible way, believing they were helping federal agents secure their assets. Montgomery County Police had already been arresting gold bar couriers before the Indian call center investigation concluded. 8 individuals were arrested in the county on related charges since 2024. 3 of those defendants were directly linked to the Indian call centers, connecting the local courier operation to the international fraud network in a single traceable chain.
The gold bar system was used because gold is harder to trace than bank transfers and easier to liquidate quickly than some forms of cryptocurrency. Once a gold bar leaves a victim's hands, its journey to the criminal network is difficult to follow and nearly impossible to reverse. The 3 call centers dismantled in December 2025 are one operation in a landscape of hundreds. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center receives hundreds of complaints every single day. In 2024, older adults, those most frequently targeted by government impersonation scams, were more than twice as likely to report losses exceeding $10,000 compared to younger victims, and more than 3 times as likely to report losses over $100,000. For Americans over 60 who reported losses between $10,000 and $100,000 in 2024, the combined total was $214 million in a single year. For those who reported losses over $100,000, $445 million in 1 year from victims over 60 alone. And those are only the people who reported. FBI Special Agent Jimmy Paul said at the February press conference that the $48 million figure connected to these specific call centers was almost certainly an undercount. Shame keeps victims silent, fear of judgment, the belief that no one will understand how this happened to someone as smart and careful as they believed themselves to be. Every unreported case is a case that cannot be linked to the network, cannot contribute to an investigation, and cannot protect the next person in line. Americans are safer right now, Agent Paul said, because Lisa and Sahadev and others took action. Their courage in going public, in standing before cameras and reporters and saying, "This happened to me and I want you to know about it," may be the most powerful thing anyone can do in the face of these operations, because awareness is the one tool that scales faster than the fraud itself. Lisa worked for the federal government for 4 decades. Sahadev has spent his career in public service. These are not people who were uninformed about how government agencies operate, and yet both of them were completely deceived. Understanding why requires setting aside the comfortable narrative that this could not happen to careful people, because it can, and it does, and understanding the mechanisms is the only way to protect against them. The first mechanism is authority terror. This operation did not use romance. It did not build trust over weeks and months. It weaponized fear of government authority in a single phone call. The threat of having your social security number linked to drug trafficking and money laundering is not an abstract danger. It is the kind of threat that carries criminal consequences: arrest, prosecution, the destruction of a reputation built over a lifetime. The emotional response to that threat is immediate, overwhelming, and physiologically real. Adrenaline, heart rate increase, tunnel vision, the body's fight or flight response activates. And in that state, the brain's capacity for critical evaluation is significantly reduced. The scammers know this. They use it deliberately. The second mechanism is manufactured surveillance. Telling Lisa they knew the color of her car was not accidental. This detail, which the scammers likely obtained from publicly available records or data purchased from information brokers, served a specific psychological purpose. It made the threat feel personal and immediate. It transformed an abstract fear into the concrete sensation of being watched, of being known, of being already inside the operation, whether she participated or not. Once a person believes they are under surveillance by criminals, their capacity to reach out to anyone who might question what they are doing collapses completely. The third mechanism is authority layering. The victim did not speak to one person. They moved through a chain: tech support, Social Security Administration, FBI, sometimes DEA. Each transfer deepened the sense of a legitimate process unfolding. Each new voice added a layer of institutional credibility. By the time the victim was speaking to the fake FBI agent issuing instructions about their money, they had already passed through multiple apparent verification stages that their brain interpreted as confirmation that what was happening was real.
The fourth mechanism is the isolation instruction. Do not tell anyone. This single instruction, delivered with the explanation that disclosure could compromise the investigation or endanger the victim's family, is the most operationally critical element of the entire scam. Because the one resource that consistently breaks these operations is a second perspective. A family member who asks questions, a friend who expresses doubt, a bank employee who flags the transaction. The isolation instruction is specifically designed to remove all of these safeguards simultaneously. And it works because it's framed not as secrecy for the scammer's benefit, but as a protective measure for the victim's own safety. The fifth mechanism is the respect for authority that a lifetime of civic engagement builds. Lisa and Sahadev both had deep, genuine, earned respect for government institutions. Montgomery County State's Attorney John McCarthy noted this explicitly at the press conference. He said they have respect for authority and the federal government, and the scammers preyed on that respect. The very qualities that made them good citizens, their trust in institutions, their willingness to cooperate with law enforcement, their belief that government agents acting in their interest deserved their compliance, were the qualities weaponized against them. This is not irony. It is predatory design, and it is why these operations target the people they target.
When Lisa wired her savings to Hong Kong, where did that money actually go? The answer, by now familiar from our previous videos on romance scams and pig butchering, is a layered international financial infrastructure designed from the ground up to be untraceable. Wire transfers went to bank accounts in California, Hong Kong, and other jurisdictions, accounts controlled by money mules, many of whom were themselves deceived about the nature of what they were facilitating. Cryptocurrency purchases were routed to wallets that immediately began the layering process, moving funds through multiple addresses in rapid succession until the original source became impossible to identify. Gold bars were physically transported by local couriers to collection points connected to the broader network. The money moved fast. By the time any victim raised the alarm, the funds had already crossed multiple borders and passed through multiple hands. The recovery rate in Maryland, $15,000 out of $6.2 million, tells you everything you need to know about what happens to this money once it leaves a victim's account. The call centers themselves operated as the customer-facing layer of a larger criminal enterprise. The workers running the scripts were not the people who kept the money. They were employees, paid to run an operation whose proceeds flowed to the organizers, the 6 Indian nationals arrested by the Central Bureau of Investigation in December 2025. Those organizers ran the operation for years across hundreds of victims, generating nearly $50 million in reported losses alone. And those 6 arrests, significant as they are, represent the leadership of 3 call centers in one country. The broader landscape of government impersonation fraud operating globally is orders of magnitude larger. The FBI, the FTC, and the Social Security Administration have all stated the same thing clearly. Here is what you need to know. 1. The government does not call you unexpectedly about your Social Security number. The Social Security Administration communicates primarily by mail. If you receive an unexpected phone call claiming to be from the SSA, the FBI, the DEA, or any other government agency telling you your number has been suspended or linked to criminal activity, hang up. It is a scam. No exceptions. 2. Government agencies do not ask you to move your money. No legitimate federal agency will ever tell you to withdraw your savings, wire money to a new account, buy cryptocurrency, or purchase gold bars for collection. This is not how any government agency in the United States operates, ever. If anyone claiming to be a government official gives you these instructions, regardless of how convincing they sound, regardless of what credentials they show you, the answer is no, and call someone you trust immediately. 3. A badge on a phone or email is not proof of identity. The badge Sahadev was shown was fabricated.
Scammers can create convincing digital images of any government credential in minutes. The fact that someone shows you a badge, letterhead, or an official-looking document through a screen proves nothing about who they are. 4. Caller ID can be faked. The Social Security Administration's real phone number can appear on your caller ID while a scammer in India is speaking to you. This is called spoofing, and it is cheap, easy, and widely used by these operations. A caller ID showing the government number is not evidence that the caller is a government employee. 5. The instruction to keep it secret is always a red flag. No legitimate law enforcement investigation requires you to hide your cooperation from your family. No real FBI agent will tell you not to speak to your son or daughter about what is happening. Secrecy is a scam tactic, always, without exception. The moment someone instructs you not to tell anyone about what is happening, that is the moment to tell everyone immediately. 6. Urgency is manufactured. The deadline, the arrest warrant, the account that will be frozen if you don't act in the next hour. These are pressure tactics designed to prevent you from thinking, verifying, or consulting anyone. Real government processes do not operate on artificial deadlines that disappear if you pause to make a phone call. The urgency you feel is being generated deliberately to override your judgment. 7. If someone asks you to buy gold bars and hand them to a courier, stop. Call the police. This is one of the clearest possible signals that a fraud is in progress. No legitimate government agency in the United States collects assets from citizens through in-person couriers. No legitimate organization of any kind will send someone to your door to pick up gold bars you purchased at their instruction. The message from law enforcement at the February press conference was unambiguous. The FBI is not going to call you, said Montgomery County State's Attorney John McCarthy. Unsolicited calls, the government does not call you on the phone. If you think you are being targeted, hang up and call your local police department directly, using a number you find independently, not a number from the email or the pop-up or the caller who contacted you, a number you look up yourself. If you or someone you know has already lost money to one of these scams, file a complaint with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center at ic3.gov. Filing a complaint doesn't guarantee recovery, but it allows FBI analysts to identify leads and patterns, link individual cases to broader criminal networks, and build the investigations that eventually reach the call centers and the people running them. Lisa and Sahadev filed complaints. Those complaints contributed to an investigation that ultimately led to the dismantling of 3 call centers and the arrest of 6 criminal organizers. Their courage in reporting and in going public made other Americans safer. Prevention and education, said the FBI Special Agent Jimmy Paul, are law enforcement's strongest tools. We cannot do this alone. Lisa is 82 years old. She spent 40 years serving the United States government. She raised a family. She saved carefully. She planned a retirement in the home she has lived in for years. And the people who took everything from her were sitting in a room in India, reading a script, doing to her exactly what they had done to hundreds of others before her. I'm sure they are smart people, she said at the press conference. They should not use their wisdom to do something. Help other people instead, hurt people, especially old people. She came to that press conference not because she had to, but because she understood that her story, told publicly, might stop what happened to her from happening to someone else. That act of courage from a woman who had lost everything and was still afraid is worth more than any law enforcement press release. If you have a parent, grandparent, elderly neighbor, or anyone in your life who respects authority and trusts institutions, the person this operation was designed to target, share this video with them. Have the conversation. Tell them what a government impersonation scam looks like. Tell them the government will never call them and ask them to move their money. Tell them that the instruction to keep something secret from family is always a red flag. That conversation could be the thing that saves everything they've worked their entire life to build. Subscribe to Fraud Intelligence for weekly breakdowns of exactly how fraud operations work and exactly how to stop them. Leave a comment below. Do you know someone who's been targeted by a government impersonation scam? Your experience shared here is part of the solution. Stay safe, stay skeptical. We'll see you in the next one.